In today's video, we're taking a look at how to install floating shelves, easy and simple. This is so easy, anyone could do. Everything that we use on the video, we're gonna leave a link on the description. So today, you woke up with the idea of floating, flying through the airs, having wings, and shedding those pounds because of the weightlessness. You're in the wrong channel. But if you came to kick that DIY list behind, don't worry. Here at the StatUpBox team, we've got your back. We'll show you how to install it on the stud or just using the anchors on this same video. And this technique worked for a wood wall, a sheetrock wall, a cement wall, a brick wall. So the first thing that you're gonna need is floating shelves. And this particular one, we got it on Amazon for under $30, closer to $25. We'll leave a link on the description for that one. And on this kit, you get 2 of them. According to the manufacturer, it can hold up to 8 pounds. It measures 16¼ inches long, 5½ inches wide, and it's about 1½ inches thick. The supports are made of metal, and it does have 8 mounting screw holes on it. So basically what holds the weight from the floating shelf is the metal bracket. It goes inside of the shelf, therefore avoiding having to use any L brackets or mounting brackets to hold it up. It's basically the same idea, but hidden within. So now that we got spiritual and seen within the shelf's soul, let's see what else came in the box. And no matter if you got this particular unit or a different one, the technique is the same because we have 2 floating shelves, we have 2 sets of screws and anchors, and also included on the kit are 4 stickers to hide some screws. And lastly, we have the most important thing in the whole box. The manufacturer was so kind to include barbecue paper, aka owner's manual. Now that we filled your head with data, we're ready to start. The first thing that you're gonna need is floating shelves. The second thing that you're gonna need is yourself. If in your kingdom you also have a Watson, then extra help always comes in handy. And the third thing, and most important, is a home to place the floating shelf. So either if you choose your neighbors, your friends, your family member, your spouse, or significant other, because we all know they are the owners and we're just the guests in our own castle. But don't let them know. Keep acting like you're the boss. And lastly is safety, because the last thing you want on a clear sunny day or any kind of day is to die. So the first thing that we're gonna do, we're gonna take measurements from the floor to the height where we want to place the shelves. And what you want to take in consideration is, are the shelves are gonna be for utility purposes like putting books or anything that you might use. Then you want to make sure that you can access the height at any time. But if you don't care using ladders, that's up to you. If you're going for the decoration look, then height might not be as important because you might just place it and forget it until the next season comes. In our case, we're gonna choose a halfway point from the end of the TV to the ceiling. And this doesn't have to be exact, but we're picking an easy number. So 6 feet or 72 inches is the one that we choose. So now we want to go ahead and mark that on the wall, either using a pencil that you know that you can erase, or you can use a piece of tape. If you're only installing one shelf, with 2 marks should be enough. But if you're doing more than one next to each other, then marking a few spots on your wall would be the best way. And we do this because we want to find level. Because the last thing you want is to place something on the shelf and then fall on somebody's head. Well, thinking about it now, it might not be a bad idea. And for legal purposes, that is clearly a joke. Wink, wink. So what we're gonna do is take our level, and just like that game that you played when you was little, we're gonna connect the dots, making sure that the line is level. But remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. In regular circumstances where there's no camera, we'll be probably eyeballing this part. And every time a guest comes, we will start talking about the Leaning Tower of Pizza. So now that we have the line where we're going to place our floating shelf, now we need to determine where our studs are. And we like to place at least a minimum of 1 to 2 screws on the stud because we're still not ready for things to fall on people's head. I mean, it would make a floating shelf more secure, but you can also use only the anchors, but remember, it's not gonna hold the same weight as screwing into the stud. And another downside is that with any movement of the floating shelves, depending on the anchors, they may start to get loose also. So we're gonna take our stud finder and starting on a green position on this particular, meaning there's no stud behind the wall, we start moving it until we get a beep or a red signal. We double confirm this information and make our first mark. And remember, you can do this with a pencil or tape. So that means we found one of the edges of the stud. Now we have to go on the other side to find the other edge. We have a full video on how to use a stud finder. We'll leave a link on the description of the video. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna find all the studs on the line that we created. And we do this so we can make sure where we're gonna place the floating shelves. And also, if we need to pick another stud, it's already marked for us. Another easy way to find your studs is by measuring the distance between the middle point of one stud to the other. Here in our location is 16 inches. In your location may be different. You can verify with the rules, regulations of your particular area. So now that you created art on the wall, we're ready to decide how we are going to install the metal bracket. In this particular bracket, we have 8 holes. Usually the rule of thumb is you want to place your screw on the middle of the stud. But because we're not placing anything heavy on ours, we can get away by placing 4 on one stud. And to help that, we're going to go and when we place the screws, we're going to try to screw them inward. And remember, you can place the bracket inside of the shelf just to see where the bracket is gonna land and the shelf is gonna be. Because in some cases, just like this one, the bracket is not the same size as the shelf. Now that you chose your location, we're gonna go ahead and mark the holes with a pencil. And if you're doing more than one, you wanna do this for each bracket that you're gonna place. And before doing your final markings, you wanna make sure that you have the bracket pointing to its correct location. In this case, this one has an arrow pointing upward. You can verify with your barbecue paper, owner's manual, to confirm its correct position. If you're doing more than one shelf, you want to repeat this process for the remaining brackets. So if you're using anchors to place your brackets, then you want to use a drill bit the same thickness as the anchor, but not the head. Because the last thing you want is to hammer the anchor in the wall and then it goes through. In one way, you fed your drywall, but in the other, now you're missing an anchor. So it's always better to go for a little smaller than bigger. Even though that doesn't sound right in real life, in this case, it is. If you're drilling on a cement, wood, or brick wall, then you want to mark the size of your anchor on your drill bit. Because you don't want to drill bigger than the anchor itself. You want the head of the anchor to be flush or flat with the wall. We want to go ahead and make sure that we center the drill and drill bit in the center of our marking. And we want to go ahead and drill slowly, just enough to go through the sheetrock. In this case, we're only going to do 4 to the left using the anchors, and the 4 to the right, we're going to use screws on the stud. So like that, no matter which way you choose, you can see how it's done. In this case, we're doing a hybrid, which also works well. If you have a long enough shelf that reaches from one stud to the other, and you have screw holes located at the stud, this would be the best way, because you can drill on both ends of the bracket on the stud. Another technique is if the bracket reaches the other stud but it doesn't have holes, in some cases you can drill a new hole on the metal bracket so it can land on the stud. Now that we have the holes for our anchors, we can go ahead and tap them in, always remembering not to go in all the way. In some anchors, once you place the screw in, the anchor becomes a little bit bigger, so that means it's gonna grab on to the sheetrock a lot better, or to the cement, or to the brick wall, or whatever material you're placing your installation in. Now that we have all our markings on the wall and your spouse, friends, family members are looking at you with the mess that you created, we're ready now to install the screws either on the studs or on the anchors. In our case, we're going to screw the screws looking inward to the stud. Once we feel the first grab, that should be enough. You don't want to turn extra to over tighten or to make the anchor move on its place and lose its grip. Now that we have all the screws in, no matter which technique you use, the anchors or the studs or both, now we're going to place the floating shelf inside the bracket. When placing the bracket, we want to see if there's any marking to show where it's pointing up or the correct way to place. Now we're going to notice holes on the floating shelves and also on the bracket. We want to see the direction where your particular shelf points where up is and place it that way. In this particular unit and in most floating shelves, the holes for the screws always go at the bottom, and this is what makes the final secure grab from the shelf to the bracket. We go ahead and screw from the bottom, and just like before, once we feel the first grab, that's tight enough. And we want to place these screws because the last thing you want is for somebody to hold the shelves and everything comes on top of them. Wink wink. We place our hiding stickers, and now you become a hanger. Your floating skills have no comparison. You once again become king, queen, both or none of your castle. Today you've DIY leveled up. Don't forget, if you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up. That really helps. If you have any questions, place them in the comment section below. Either someone in the StatUpBox team or someone in the YouTube community can help you out with an answer. Don't forget to subscribe, follow us on social media. Thank you for watching, and here's a link to our latest video.